Welcome back. We're sitting down with Mayor Ken Christian on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
Susan.
great to have you.
It's good to be here.
Yeah.
It seems like it was just yesterday, but it was a month ago.
I know how quickly the months go, right?
Exactly,
Yeah. So we're talking about several different issues going on right now. I don't know which one you want to start with. How about the legalization of pot?
No, yeah. Well, that's an interesting file. I think there's a number of levels. First of all, at the federal level, we've got Bill C-45, which is going through the Senate right now and is, a bit slower than what they had anticipated. So my guess is that this July 1st Cannabis Day is not going to happen. I would suggest it's probably sometime later in the summer.
Oh, really? You think it's going to be put right off?
Yeah, I think, it'll be sometime in the summer, but a bit later. And then we have the provincial government, so they have to really wait before their legislation comes in. But we did have a signal from Minister Farnsworth this week that they have really looked at the model that they're going to use, and then now it falls to the city. So there are some interesting things from Minister Farnsworth's announcement about the situation in British Columbia. It's going to be very similar to the liquor primary. So like for a pub, to set up a pub, it's going to be similar to set up a marijuana retail outlet. So that then will invoke a number of different things at the municipal level for the city of Kamloops. So we're tooling up right now to be able to deal with that. So the public have to realize this is not about medical marijuana. Medical marijuana dispensaries are currently unlicensed and illegal in Kamloops. This is about the retail sale of recreational pot in Kamloops. So we have to decide as a council, do we want these clustered? Do we want them spread out? What kind of separation distances do we want between them and, say, middle schools, which would have a sensitive population? The government has indicated that they don't want these stores to sell anything else but pot, so they're not going to be able to sell food or alcohol. There should be some separation distance between alcohol dispensaries.
Sure. There's a lot of decisions here.
Oh, and what hours of operation do they have? What do they have for security? What do they have for parking? All of those kinds of things. So in the coming months, our Development and Engineering Services Department will work up a proposal. They'll present it to council. Council will have to hold some public input and public hearings on that, and then we will be in a position so that when the legislation goes through the federal government and the provincial government, we will be in a position to issue licenses and recommend licenses in Kamloops.
At first feel, do you have any idea of how many of these stores there might be? I mean...
Yeah, I asked that question, and the best guess is between 10 and 20. So it's significant. And, they're estimating, around 10,000 users in Kamloops. And so, I said the other night, I was speaking to the Canadian home builders, that it really will be a significant change in the retail landscape in Kamloops.
Oh, yeah.
But there are some other sort of side issues as well. There's the whole issue of growing pot at your own property. So you can't have in British Columbia 4 plants, and they now have to be outside of public view. And there is a proposed rule that you would, or at least strata operations would be able to limit the growth of marijuana within apartments so that you don't have unit 203 next to 204, and 203's got a little grow up in their place. So those kinds of things need to be talked about by, strata councils. They've got to get involved in this. The age of majority for the use of marijuana in British Columbia will be 19 years. I was
going to say, I didn't
similar
know that.
to tobacco, yeah.
Right.
So, we have to look at where you're going to be able to use pot in Kamloops, because we had set up a whole regimen around anti-smoking, and that was predicated on protecting children and youth from the adverse influences of tobacco. But, we're not going to be able to smoke on soccer sidelines, in parks, on the beaches, where children are normally present. The same kind of separation distances from airways and doorways would be in place so that you can't just leave the bar and go out and smoke a joint out in the front step kind of thing. So, all of that has to be sorted out. And then there's that whole piece about impaired driving.
Right? Oh, it's huge. Yeah. It's huge. This is just the beginning of what I think is a massive amount of questions that have to be answered and decisions that have to be made. It's going to be very fluid for a long time.
Yeah. Fortunately, we've got a new inspector in Kamloops, our Inspector Todd Balaban, and he's had some experience with traffic. And I was talking to him the other day about the training of some of our men and women in the RCM Police to become DREs, or drug recognition experts. And so the police are working on that training so that they have people on staff that are going to be able to, analyze people for the impact of marijuana and impairment by marijuana, and have those kinds of consequences hold up in court. So, a whole bunch of things on that file, and all coming before council in the next 6 months.
You have your work cut out for you, I'll say.
We do.
We're already into a break, but we will be back with Ken with more civic matters in about 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Great.
Welcome back. Sitting down with the mayor, talking some civic issues. Ken, it's great to have you back on the show. And we're talking now in this segment a little bit about the budget and the fact that there are some supplemental items, which means there are some little extras that you've invited people to come into an open house and talk about. Do you want to spend a little more money and have this or that? And there's 12 of these items. I'm not going to list them all, but how's it looking? First of all, it's not that there's this pot of money and you're going to spend it.
Yeah.
If we go for any of these little extras, it's going to cost the taxpayers more.
Yeah.
Is that the right way of looking at it?
Yeah, that's it. I wish there was that pot of money that you alluded to, Susan, but no, there isn't. So we have a list of, I think there's a dozen items on there. Some of them have been generated by our staff. Others have been generated by sports groups or interest groups. Others have been generated by neighborhood associations. So they're things that people want us to be talking about and considering including. So our finance department, under the direction of Kathy Humphrey, our chief financial officer, have worked these up, and we had an open house this week. Had a fairly good attendance. There was about 30 or 40 people there, and a lot of discussion about the items and what people valued and how much they valued it. And ultimately, it's going to come down to a vote by City Council on each and every one of those items on February the 20th, and if we don't get through it on the 20th, we'll go to the 27th and do it again. And all of that feeds into our overall budget, which is sitting right now at around 1.8 in taxation. It's 1.6 overall when you consider the impact of the utilities, which I think is great. I think it's keeping Kamloops affordable and keeping the services that we're used to alive and working. But there are some enhancements that people really are looking for. This whole notion of outdoor skating rink and that issue.
I like that one.
Yeah, the notion of outdoor washrooms, or what they call a Portland loos. And
Portland loos?
Yeah, it's a kind of outdoor washroom, was designed in Portland, mainly for just public consumption and public use, that are quite durable, I would say. So
durable.
Yeah. And then there's some enhancements in West Side to the West Side pool operation that we have. We put some money into that envelope out there, and there's some need for some programming out there.
They have 3 requests for 3 different pockets of money, so
yeah,
that's quite a few.
And there's another one related to snow removal. You can't get away without that. So
never can you, not at this time of the year. Would it even be on the table if we did the budget in July, for example?
Yeah, no, probably not.
So tell me this, what was popular of the 30 or 40 people that came to the public open house?
There seems to be general consensus in and around the request from the Heritage Commission. I think it's a relatively small request, and it's really to reflect on the heritage in Kamloops and honor, in this case, some veterans and the street names and that. Really, really solid stuff. There was some consensus in and around the request from Kamloops Fire and Rescue for hazmat. And, we have to remember we live in a city that's the junction of many highways and 2 railroads, and the capacity of Kamloops Fire and Rescue to deal professionally with hazmat incidents really needs to be at the top of their game, right? So seemed to be a lot of support in and around that. Some of the other ones, maybe not so much. A lot of controversy around the outdoor skating rink.
Oh, is there?
Would it be North Shore? Would it be South Shore? Would it have sticks and boards for shinny hockey and hockey, or would it be passive skating like the one at Stewart Park in Kelowna? So a lot of different things in and around that, and I'm interested to hear what council will decide on that. You know, we all heard from different members of the public that night, so everybody will have a different takeaway from the public input session,
Sure.
and that will come together on the 20th.
Awesome. Do you know we're already out of time? We've had you on for 2 segments. We got through 2 topics. We had 2 other ones. How quickly it goes.
Another month.
Maybe we should have the Ken Christian show, and it's just like the full hour. We sit
Yeah,
back,
I don't
put
think
our feet up.
I don't think we need to subject the public to that.
Well, it's been good today, though, so thank you for being here. If you would like to sit down and talk to the mayor, you'd like to reach out to the mayor, he's on Twitter, and that's one of his 2 accounts. I don't know the other one. Maybe it's more private. I don't know. We can go with that one.
That's good.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.